It's because I believe what separates human beings from any other living being is our ability to communicate across generations.
Awesome.
And I believe that as adults, for posterity, right? For posterity, for the next generation of children who don't get a vote right now, right? They're just they're just hoping that we think about them.
Yep.
And as an adult, to create content that communicates information.
Welcome to VezaTalks podcast. I'm Mario Milanovic. I'm the host. Tune in as we delve into the digital world of entrepreneurship and uncover the strategies and tactics of successful business leaders. Today, it's a great pleasure to have Sergeant Major Mario P. Fields with me. And he's got quite the biography. Mario served 26 years in the United States Marine Corps before working at the executive level in the civic sector, developing startup companies in the for-profit and non-profit sectors, coaching digital content creators, and helping transitioning service members. Mario has developed and managed and led diverse teams throughout the United States, Persian Gulf, Mediterranean Sea, Israel, UAE, Africa, Australia, Cambodia, Philippines, South Korea, mainland Japan, Okinawa, Thailand, Kuwait, Iraq, and Afghanistan. He's also the host of his podcast, Unarmored Talk, and the founder and president of the nonprofit corporation Still Serving Incorporated. Welcome, Mario.
Thank you, Mario. It's an honor to be here.
Absolutely. Well, I already love your name, so there's the Mario brothers are on here, so it'll be a fun time, and I'm really excited to talk to you. You're the first army person on our podcast, and there is a lot of questions that I have because I know that military and business actually probably go hand in hand. There's a lot of parallels in those two businesses, even though one is a little bit more aggressive maybe, but I think business can be aggressive as well. So before we get into some of the questions that I have for you, tell us a little bit more about yourself. I know the biography is really extensive. It's amazing to have somebody as experienced as you on this podcast. But tell us a little bit about your younger years and what made you join, and what was your initial reasoning for joining the army and all that.
No, thanks, Mario. Well, first of all, you have hair and I don't, so you look better than me. So, ladies, yeah. So, ladies, I'm the JV version of Mario. Yeah, no. When I was younger, I've always been athletic and focused. I had wonderful parents and had a wonderful journey, growing up. And so for me, when I decided to join the Marines, it was really at first for discipline. I was an 18-year-old kid. I like to party. And I said, I'm going to go to college, but I don't want to waste my parents' money. So if my older brother joined the Navy, I don't want to be, we're 17 months apart. I don't want people to go, oh, you're just like your brother, right? Oh, Mario's, so I said, yeah, I'll just do 4 years in the Marines. Get some discipline, right? Some camaraderie, learn those soft skills, right? I call the Marine Corps the University of Leadership.
Yep.
And it in 4 years turned into 26 years. And
Wow.
so I enjoyed it. Yeah. And I'm glad we're talking about the how strategies, soft and hard skills that we learn in the military, how that translates into the private sector. And so I did 26 years. And then the thing I want to highlight, Mario, is out of everything I've done, and thank you for reading the bio, but my passion for helping people. And one thing I learned being all over the world is humans are more alike than different.
Yep. Absolutely.
We're all
Absolutely.
humans. And
That's
I
right.
always had a passion for helping people and doing things today that makes the world a bit better for the next generation of professionals and people.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you've had a lot of different experiences, and a lot of our guests have a lot of stories to tell, that kind of thing. Tell us a little bit of what was the most challenging part as a job as a sergeant major? What I mean, I'm sure there was many, but what was some of the top two things that you thought were, man, this is something that's really, really challenging me?
Yeah, so the more responsibility I gained, I would say number one, I cared about everybody. You know, when you're in charge of a couple of hundred to thousands, and I wouldn't even say in charge, when you're privileged to be in a management position, in a position of larger influence, I actually cared about those that I was privileged to manage,
Hmm.
right, and influence. So number one, going Mario, you got to take care of yourself, right? Self care.
Yep.
In order for you to in order for you to demonstrate effective leadership behaviors and really, really, maximize your potential, you got to take care of yourself first. So that was the number one challenge: is learning the behaviors and skills how to take care of me. What did that look like? What was it? And what is self care for me? And then the second thing was my family. I mean, I traveled a lot, and balancing that, is my family okay? Am I giving them quality time when I'm home? What is quality time? And how are they doing? How's my wife, the children? How is this journey impacting them? And so I would say those were the two top challenging things for me as a sergeant major.
Okay. Yeah, that must be really tough. I know that I used to travel like crazy, and when you come home, still getting used to the time zones, and you're trying to relax a little bit. It's almost like you need a vacation from your, not vacation, but being away. And sometimes people just want all your attention. I imagine that's what happened with your family, and so you're trying to be the good dad and the good husband, and all that must have been just crazy. Yeah. So, what about it in terms of rewarding experience? What was, you would say, the most rewarding experience in your military career?
I would say, Mario, the most rewarding experience is what I'm experiencing now.
Okay.
So, in business, you've heard of ROI, right? Return on investment.
Yep.
Um, I'm experiencing return on relationships. And I learned that from my mentor. His name is Bob Gotleski. He's out of Southern Cal. And return on relationships, you can't buy that. It takes time to build it. You have to earn people's respect. And
Hmm.
so all the traveling and all the people that my wife and I have interacted with, that we've shown that we genuinely care. We're consistent in what we do, and more so not what we say, but what we do. Those leadership actions. Well, over time, now I'm receiving, right. I'm reaping the rewards, if you will. We'll use that term, Mario, of all of those relationships we built around the world. Now they're coming back in many forms of support, encouragement, you name it, sharing our content, sharing our brand. I mean, I can go on and on of what the return on relationships is
Right.
providing for my family.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you're talking about brand. Can you tell us a little bit more about your brand and what you've been up to?
Yeah, my the nucleus of my brand is positive, creating content that helps people.
Okay.
So that's Instagram, all right? Instagram, you can check out some of my Instagram reels, showing people that it's okay to be married for over 28 years and still, right, be in love with your wife. Love her more now than you did, than I did 28 years ago.
Okay.
Facebook, right? Being positive. My brand again is creating content and creating that positive impact on all my social media platforms. One, to help people, and two, hopefully, if it doesn't help you in developing a skill or two, at least put a smile on your face.
Sure.
Who knows what's going on in your day.
That's awesome. I mean, I was going to ask you about it, but since you mentioned it, so what would you say is the successful thing about relationships? So you mentioned that you've been together for, was it 26 or 28 years? 28?
28 years, Mario.
28 years. So what's the secret sauce in a nutshell?
It's secret sauce. I actually on my YouTube channel, I actually created a video that gave some tips. It's a pretty good video on my YouTube channel. It was our 27th year anniversary. So if someone wants to see it, they can go to the Mario Nicole playlist and take a look at it. So there's not a secret sauce, right? It's complex.
Yep.
But if I had to, give you a couple, number one, definitely communication. And you hear people say communication, but what does that mean? right? What does communication mean? And understanding that every human being processes words and information differently.
Yep.
Just because you say something and you believe your wife or your husband should understand what you're saying, that doesn't mean they understand
Right.
what you're saying.
That's right.
Number two is belief systems. You're gonna. We came into our marriage. She had her own experiences growing up, developed her whole, set of beliefs. I have mine. Well, those worlds crash, right? They come together, and gaining a better understanding of maybe your belief of something may be a false belief.
Mhm.
Maybe you need to do some self-reflection. Maybe it's okay to go, you know what? Why do I believe that?
Yep.
And is that belief a detriment to our relationship? If it is, then maybe I need to change it. And I'll give you a quick example.
Yep.
When I was growing up, it was always, hey, if you use the bathroom, right, if you use the toilet, put the lid down. My dad was big on it. Just put the lid down. Just something simple as that. So
Yep.
I used to always believe that put the lid down. And my wife or my children, whoever in the house, if they left it up, I would get so upset, Mario. I'd be like, come on, guys, put the lid down. But then I was like, what? Wait a minute. Why am I getting so upset? Why am I, discussing this? That's a belief, but is it, why am I holding on to it? So I got rid of it. So there's little things in your belief system through your own experiences that can actually be a detriment to your relationship. And the third thing, treat every day like it's your first. Every single day. I wake up every day and I'm like, hey, what's your phone? What's your name?
That's
What's your
awesome.
phone number?
That's awesome. I love it. That's really good. I really appreciate that relationship answer. That was really interesting. Um, what skills and qualities do you think are important for success in both the military and business? Like, how do you see the parallels?
Yeah, so I my recommendation, as far as what I believe the skills are, that you need for success, and not even just in the military or in the private sector, human skills, soft skills, active listening, the ability to self reflect, not be a rigid thinker, um, to be comfortable in crisis, look for opportunities in moments of crisis. I mean, we saw what happened when the pandemic, occurred. Right? You can develop business plans and strategies, but those external factors, you can only imagine what may happen. The ability to scale your company. A lot of folks, I was, hearing the word pivot, but pivot by definition is the actual moving of structure. To scale means you can increase, you can decrease, right? You can expand. You can do horizontal, vertical expansion, or not. But to be able to scale your business plan, your actual operations, and that's brick and mortar or virtual. And then the last thing, again, is understanding that the importance of the people in your company. Do your values, your company values, align with their values? Are you is your organizational culture in enforcing your values, enforcing your brand, enabling success, improving your brand? Or do you have core values or company values, but the management at all levels, they're kind of
Yep.
their leadership behaviors are not reinforcing your company values.
Right.
So those soft skills that apply to anybody in any industry.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, one of the things that you talked about is, I believe it was comfortable in crisis, and I know
Yes.
I've had probably about 5 or 6 startups underneath my belt, kind of thing, and I know that it feels like sometimes it's one crisis after another, and eventually you kind of become comfortable with crisis, so to speak, right? And how
Yeah.
would you, and coming from the military background, I mean, crises can sometimes mean life and death rather than in business. I mean, close to life and death, but not as close to life and death as real life and death. So, what are some of the tactics that you were uh, taught, or that you uh, were able to use when a real crisis hit? What were some of the stuff that you had to do? I'm really interested in that.
No, thanks, Mario. The understanding the difference between reacting and responding, being aware of your emotions, but thinking, right? Critical thinking, thinking through your emotions to respond in an accurate way, and understanding what situations may require some level of reaction and then response, or what situations may require a level of response and then reacting, or both. I mean, it's very complex. But I believe that that was a very valuable skill, and I'm thankful for the military in all of the training and deployments we've done, and that's supporting partner nations. I mean, you name it. But really learning that skill and then bringing that skill into the private sector, where okay, I'm aware of this emotion of anger or surprise or depression or whatever, in business or not, at home. I mean, you can use it anywhere. But should I react? Should I respond?
Yeah.
Yeah, and understanding the difference between both.
Absolutely. I think that's really really key. I mean, you can prepare for anything, but life is going to throw things at you that are going to be completely different. So it's about, like a boxer has to stay on his toes, right? That's really how I look at life in a lot of ways, right? So it's like, always going to the gym and, hitting the bag, but, you're never going to know if the uppercut is going to come from this side or that side. And, so it's very interesting. So what about, somebody that's transitioning from military to business? What kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, the advice I normally give them in my employment workshops, the employment workshops that I facilitate for Department of Labor, we give them a lot of advice, but think like the employer. Know your audience. Think like the employer. If you're going into the healthcare industry, then think like the healthcare industry employers.
Hmm.
Right? Because, and that's in any industry. Because if you go into, let's say you're in law enforcement, and you're trying to transition into the healthcare industry, but you're speaking law enforcement language, right? You're using words that are relevant and familiar with folks in the law enforcement industry. People in healthcare are going, "Thank you, Mario, appreciate it." We're confused,
Right.
right? And
Hmm.
so the same concept is what I facilitate to transitioning service members around the world. Is think like the employer. And that way, when you transition to the private sector, or you become, right, an entrepreneur mindset, right, an entrepreneur, and then a business owner, which those are two separate things. But eventually, if you become a business owner, at least you're thinking like your industry, think like the employer, and then also you'll partner with relevant, right, folks who think like you, who speak the same language, and it's not confusing, and it reduces the friction in your transition process, but it also increases the ability for potential employers to learn a little bit more about your skills, and your value, your worth.
Absolutely. Well, that's amazing. That's really good advice. I love that. Um, what advice would you give to business leaders on how to effectively lead and inspire their teams? Now, I can only imagine how difficult it must be to lead and inspire your team in a war situation or something like that. I mean, I can't even imagine. So, how would that translate into business? I mean, do you have any ideas on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, I'm a business owner, Mario. So, you know, show them you care. You, but the way you show them you care in any organization, any business, even your own house, these skills are relevant no matter where you go. The only way, no, not the only way, but a way you show people you care is you give them the one thing you own, and that's your time, because you own it and you don't have to give it to them. That CEO or CFO or deputy director, they don't have to, get out of their office to go and visit their people and talk to them for a couple of seconds. They don't have to. They don't have to, if you're in a grocery distribution company, you don't have to. And let's say you're the operations, the vice president of operations. You don't have to go get in a truck with a new driver and drive with them on a route for delivery. Show them you care by giving your time. Now,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and so I believe that when people in any company, and that's military or not, When there's an organizational culture, that means acceptable behaviors by the people in that company. And it's a culture of caring, people first, listening to people, right? Just because I'm the CEO doesn't mean I'm the smartest person in the company. Listen to people, collaborate, and I can go on and on and on, Mario, about how your leadership behaviors in any organization, including your home, can show people that you actually care.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's really good advice. I mean, when people clearly see that you care, it changes everything, right? So it doesn't become a job; it becomes a place you go to make a difference for people. And when that happens, you flourish. Your company flourishes, you flourish, the people
Oh yeah.
flourish, the brand flourishes, and so et cetera, et cetera. That's really, really, really good advice. And I think a lot of times we forget about that, right? So it's nice to remind ourselves about that, even though it's a simple thing. Sometimes the simple things in life make the biggest difference, right? So,
Yeah, and Mario, one of my philosophy is you could fire me as the CEO, right, the founder and owner, and the company would still live. But if I got rid of all the volunteers and employees, we're in trouble.
that's right. Absolutely. Yes, it's wonderful to hear that. Tell me about a couple of your idols. So whether it's growing up or whether it's later in life, who inspired you, or a couple of people? Uh,
Yeah, believe it or not, one's my parents. So that I was blessed to have wonderful parents, and my mom died unexpectedly a few years ago. But dad was very disciplined, hard worker. What I mean by that is he wasn't lazy. Like he maximized his time in a day. A man of few words, but never complained and always provided. And then my mom was just inspirational. That's where I get it from. My mom would talk to anyone. She didn't see color and race and creed. She didn't judge you by how much money you had or you did not have. She just loved people. And as a child, thank goodness that I learned that from her. And where I don't judge people based off of how much money they make, or how much, what clothes they have on. I'm like, you're a human being, and you know what, and you have some value. I just got to talk to you to see what value you have in
that's
discussion.
awesome.
So my
That's
my,
wonderful.
my parents, my friend.
Is there anybody more, I mean, famous that basically gave you kind of inspiration? Some book that you read, maybe, or something like that.
Yeah, believe it or not, Oprah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, I'm in the broadcasting industry. I follow my passion. I mean, this is not what I wanted to do. This was not my dream. But just like Oprah, if you read her story, she had no idea what her dream and passion was until she got fired, essentially. And the way she hosts, how genuine she is. I studied Oprah, followed Oprah, and I learned a lot of skills that she has displayed when I started my own podcast almost 3 years ago.
That's awesome. No, I love Oprah. I used to watch her all the time, believe it or not. Amazing. That's great. So, if you were in my shoes and you wanted to ask a question that I didn't ask, what would that question be?
Yeah, so that question would be why, Mario, why do you have such a passion with creating businesses and organizations and relationships, not just to help people today, but for the next generation?
Cool. What is it?
It's because I believe what separates human beings from any other living being is our ability to communicate across generations.
Awesome.
And I believe that as adults, for posterity, right? For posterity, for the next generation of children who don't get a vote right now, right? They're just they're just hoping that we think about them.
Yep.
And as an adult, to create content that communicates information that can live for generations, and to work together, not what can I do, but what can be done for the next generation of human beings. I believe that is important as an adult, and that's critical for their experience in the world as they become the next professionals worldwide.
That's amazing. Really noble of you. I love it. That's a very, very, very good question and a great answer. Well, Mario, thank you so much. I think this is a really great sit down. I've always wanted to talk to somebody like you. Like I said, I love your name. But tell our viewers where they can find you.
Yes, yes. Thanks, Mario. And I appreciate you having me on your show. But if you want to find me, you can go to theparadedeck.com, theparadedeck.com, or you can put Sergeant Major Mario P. Fields Parade Deck, and it will come up in the search engine. All of my social media links are there, and that's from podcast, YouTube, Instagram, all the way to Still Serving Incorporated. Make sure you click on the follow me button, and you will be connected to me and all of my social media.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, Mario. Really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, Mario. Be safe.